Welcome to Prompt Circle, where we discuss real-world use cases of AI. In today's video, we'll be building a Slack ChatGPT chatbot for financial analysis. This bot would allow users to query a set of financial reports. Let's take a look at our financial analysis chatbot and see exactly how it works. So right on the right hand side of the screen, you could see the Amazon quarterly results. So we have taken a number of these quarterly results which we are querying. This one is from Q1 2021, and essentially you could now start to query all these financial information directly from inside Slack. So what would that look like? So as an example, I could say, explain the numbers, the financial numbers for Q1 2021, and I could say include a comparison from the previous quarter. So now just get the span of quarter right here, so quarter. So now once we hit that send, the system would be able to go pull that information in and be able to see the explanation of the financial numbers for Q1 2021, as well as the comparison from the previous quarter. In explaining this, so this says in Q1 2021, Amazon's operation cash flow from the trailing 12 months was 67.213 billion. So that is this number right here. So as you go through it and play around with this, you'll also see these numbers. So if I just kind of zoom into that, so that's Q1 2021 67213, and then we see that it also says that there was an increase in 69% compared to the TTM ended March 31st 2020, and we look at the year-on-year change, says 69%. Okay, so it talks about other numbers here. Operating income for Q1 was 8.865 billion, 120% change, and so on and so forth. So you can see here is doing the financial analysis, picking up the information from these financial numbers and being able to spit out the response here in a way that explains it very, very simply. You could do different types of queries as well, depending on what you're trying to extract or what type of insights you're trying to extract. So as an example, I could say provide a high level summary of the Q1 2021 financial numbers in bullet points. So I'm just going to use this and let's see what it does. Okay, so there we go. So it says operating cash flow, and it just sort of pulls the information in and does the summary in terms of bullet points as we indicated. So this is essentially how this application works, and I'm happy to kind of show you exactly how to go ahead and build it. Here are the things that we need to do. One, we need to sign up for DeepLake and obtain a DeepLake API key. We need to set up Slack and get a Slack bot token as well as an app token for our app. We need to create a document loading function. This function essentially will take a list of PDF documents, which are essentially our financial reports, and load them up into DeepLake. Then we're going to create a retrieval Q&A function, which would allow us to query DeepLake to return the right responses and answers to our questions. And finally, we're going to create a Slack message handler, which is going to allow us to do that through Slack. All right, so for our environment setup, here are a few steps that we need to follow. You can pause this and complete these and continue afterwards. So first and foremost, we want to create a directory called financial analysis bot. I want to cd into that directory. Next up, we want to create a virtual environment setup, and we want to make sure that we have access to the following environment variables. So we can either use this export system, or we can just create a .env file and have our token, our information in there. All right, next up, here are the packages we're going to be installing. One, we want to install our Slackbot package, OpenAI, TickToken, PyPDF, DeepLake, and Langchain. All right, so let's set up DeepLake. Now, what is DeepLake? DeepLake serves two purposes. One, it is used as a data lake for deep learning and training of models. It also includes some public data sets which you can use. For our use case though, we'll be using DeepLake as a vector database to store embeddings of our financial documents. One thing to note about DeepLake is that it is multimodal ready, which means it supports text, images, videos, audios, and other types of data. So now I'm already signed up, but to sign up, I've added a link in the description which you can use. That link also gets you 50 GB free. Now, one thing to note is that DeepLake also provides like a really generous free tier. So to see your free tier, go to organizations here, and under billing, you'll notice that you get up to 500 GB of managed data, as well as 300 GB of active loop storage. And then there's some paid versions as well. Now, what we need here is to go grab our key, and to do that, we need to go into your profile and go to API tokens. Here, if you don't already have a token, you can create a new token. So I already have a token here, so I'm just going to copy this token. So once you copy this token, keep it safe because we're going to be using it in our application. All right, so let's set up Slack. Now, to set up Slack, essentially what we need to do is go ahead and create a new app from scratch. And our app is a financial analysis chatbot, and we're gonna install it into our prompt circle learn. So that's the very first step, and as always we want to go ahead and generate our OAuth permissions. So we go down to scopes, under bot token scopes, add a bot token scope. Here all we need is chat write, and then we want to make sure that we get our bot token. So we install this into our workspace, and here we have our bot user token. So copy this and keep it in the safe space. But let's continue to configure our application here. So next up, we want to make sure that socket mode is enabled. So we'll go ahead and enable socket mode. So to enable socket mode, we need an app level token. So we're going to call this app token generate. So we now have an app token. So copy this and click on done. And now we have socket mode enabled, and we also have our app token and bot token, which are the two things that we're going to be needing. Now, next up, we want to make sure that we have our bot is able to receive messages. So go ahead to app name, show as online, and also show the message tab. Allow users to send /commanded messages to the tab. And once you're done with that, also go into the event description and enable events. In this case, what events do we want? We want to enable app mention and direct messages. So that is fine. And once we're done with that, let's go ahead and save changes and reinstall the app. So once we're done, now our Slack bot should be ready to go. First off, we want to load the documents and process them. We're going to be pushing them into DeepLake as well. So to do that, let's start by creating a document processing file. And in there, I'm just going to paste in the code. So I'm just going to step through exactly what's going on here. So we're going to import a few modules here. Obviously, we need our OS module to access some of our environment variables. We need our requests because we're going to be pulling the PDF documents from a particular URL. From Langchain, we're going to be using embeddings because we're going to be converting all of these documents into embeddings once we retrieve them. And then we're going to be using the DeepLake wrapper from Langchain to store all these embeddings inside DeepLake. We need a character text splitter because there's a lot of files that we're going to be dealing with, a lot of text that we're going to be dealing with. So we want to make sure that we're splitting them correctly, and also ensuring that each document, which is a PDF, is also split correctly. All right, so we need the OpenAI API key, which you should get from the OpenAI developer platform, as well as the active loop token, which we got from DeepLake. So first off, here are a bunch of URLs that we're going to be processing today. So most of them are PDF files. These are all from Amazon's financial filings. So we have a list of these URLs. So basically, we're going to be looping through these URLs, and we're going to retrieve all these PDF files and store them inside our directory. And then we're going to use the load and split to split them. First and foremost, we're going to split them into pages. So we're going to use the page PDF splitter. So we initialize it to get all the files that we have retrieved, and then we're going to load and split that. So the load and split is a method from Langchain which allows us to get all these documents in a format that is easily convertible into the vector databases once we're ready. So then we split them also into chunks that make sense, so into pages in the case of page PDFs, and then we return the pages. Okay, so next up, we want to split the entire page, pages that we're receiving. So we're splitting them into chunk sizes of 1000. So this really allows us to have really good chunks of text that can now be converted into embeddings. We're going to be using OpenAI embeddings here, so we want to initialize it, and once we're done doing that, we want to then create these embeddings and pass them into DeepLake. And to do that, we just basically need to initialize our DeepLake client. We need to set a path. So this is my organizational ID, Holaogo, and the name of the path I'm setting up is Amazon earnings _6. I'm also passing the embedding function with the embeddings that I initialized earlier on. And then this token is where we have stored our DeepLake token, which allows us to communicate with DeepLake. And then finally, we're adding all of these documents, into DeepLake. So the text that we have split correctly, we're now adding them in here. So once we're done with that, so can we just simply run this file? So Python 3 document processing.py, and now we should see that it's downloading all of our PDF documents. And in addition to that as well, very shortly, once it's done doing that, it's going to go ahead and split the documents. I've actually printed out some of it, and once it's done splitting the documents, now we're logged into DeepLake. So you can see we're logging into DeepLake, and now we're going to be pushing a lot of these embeddings into DeepLake as well. And once that is completed, I'm going to show you in DeepLake what this looks like, and which gets to show you exactly that this has been successful. So it's evaluating the ingest, seems to be looking good. All right, so there we go. It's done. So it's also providing us with some visual here explaining exactly how much of our embeddings has been uploaded. So we have embeddings 400 that have been uploaded. We have some IDs, 414 IDs. We have some metadata, which is JSON, and we have some text. So all of these have been uploaded. So now let's go into DeepLake just to confirm that these have been created. Right here in DeepLake, you could see that our new data set has now been uploaded. So I can also open the data set just to see if we can find some information from the data set. So you need to upgrade to actually be able to run queries. But actually looking at it from here, you could see the different embeddings, the different files that have been uploaded as well. So this is what I really like about DeepLake, is that they provide not just the embeddings but actually the text itself. So you can see all the chunks of text that we had uploaded is now available here. So now it's ready to be used. So we can now go ahead and go into creating a Slack application that is able to query this pieces of this index to retrieve information accordingly. All right, so now let's go ahead and create our Slack bot. So to do that, we're going to add a new file here. We're going to call it bot.py, and I have gone ahead and actually written out the entire code. So we're going to just step through it as usual. All right, so let's step through the code. So here are a few modules that we need to actually use to retrieve our information. We also need our Slack bot. So I'm just going to import our typical Slack bot modules to make sure they're there. So the Slack bolt as well as the Slack bolt adapter.socket mode, which basically allows us to bring in our socket mode handler as well as the app itself on the Slack side. So let's go ahead and actually look at a few things here. So one, we're going to have to initialize our embeddings. We're going to need our embeddings because we're still going to be using that in retrieval. So we're going to bring in embeddings here. So we're setting our embeddings to OpenAI embeddings. We have our financial underscore report data set. So this is the index which we already uploaded earlier on when we were doing our document processing. And now we want to initialize our retrieval Q&A chain. So this is a Langchain chain which allows us to retrieve the context of a particular question from a vector database and then provide a response based on that context. So first we need the database itself where the information lies. In this case is DeepLake, so we're using the DeepLake wrapper. Now if you remember, we had stored the information inside this particular path, so which is why we're pulling this path and then referencing it right here. And then we also have our active loop token, which ensures that we're able to connect into DeepLake. Now for our chain, we're going to be using the retrieval QA chain, which is a class that contains this method called from chain type. So we're initializing it with a large language model. We're using the OpenAI chat and we're using GPT 3.5 Turbo. Now you can use any other model as well. So you can use the OpenAI models like the GPT-3. You could also use GPT-4. GPT 3.5 is really fast and cheap, so I think it's really good. It can still solve the problems that we want to solve here. Now we're just going to do the normal sort of Slack initialization. So you're already familiar with this. So initialize now a Slack app, which is app equals to app, the app module which we had pulled down, and then we're setting our token to Slack bot token, and then we have a message handler here, which basically is listening for specific messages and allows us to type a message and then return the response. Now the response is based on this Q&A chain and just basically running whatever text that is passed into the message and then providing that response using the say function. To start our app, we're using the socket mode handler to start the app, and we're passing in the Slack app token, and that is getting our app started. So let's go ahead and actually run this and see what that looks like. So Python 3 bot.py, and let's see. Okay, so our data set, we're connecting to our data set, and we also have that the Bolt app is running. So now let's go into Slack to see exactly how our bot is going to perform. All right, so let's check this out and ask a few questions to see exactly how our bot is going to perform. So since this is a financial analysis, let's start by asking it to compare the revenue numbers between 2020 and 2021. So we'll go ahead and type out compare revenue numbers between 2020 and 21, indicating the changes in terms of percentage. So now I'm just sending that message in here and we should receive a response shortly. All right, so it now goes into the document and it says in the consolidated statements of operation, the total net sales for the month ended March 31, 2021 was this, which is a 44% increase from the total net sales from the same period in 2020, which was 75 billion. Additionally, the segment information for 3 months ended shows that the consolidated net sales for the period was this, which is a 28%. So you can see right here, we're now querying that documentation. We're now doing our financial analysis. So let's say that we wanted to understand what the total, what the growth rate has been over the last between 2018 and 2021. Let's see what has the revenue growth rate been like between 2018 and 2021. So I'm just gonna make sure this is correct. So again, we ask a question and let's see what it says here. Okay, the revenue growth rates between 2018 and 21 with double-digit growth across all segments. A consolidated growth rate of 28% in 2021 compared to the same period in 2020. All right, so let's say give me the numbers from 2018. Let's see if it gets that. Okay, financial information and business metrics provided include Q1 2018, Q2, Q3. The net sales for those quarters are as follows, and it goes ahead to actually process what those returns are. This is pretty remarkable. A financial analysis chatbot, which really makes it easy for even folks who may not be financial analysts to be able to kind of query all of that information. So you can see it right here. Pretty special, pretty cool. Looking forward to seeing what financial analysis you'd like to actually go through and work with and see how you actually make that work. I'm curious to see what you're going to be building and how you're going to be using this in doing your own analysis, but this is pretty interesting from my perspective. So I think I can just go on and on here to see what's going on, and you can also go into the documents themselves and see what this looks like. And you can say something like, what was Amazon's total revenue between 2021 and 2022. So let's see this. Okay, Amazon net sales increased to 514 billion in 2022 compared to 69.8 billion in 2021. All right, so we can see it right here. Really crisp. Really enjoyed this.